Hi everyone. Well, today took an interesting turn. I was on here earlier talking about the release of my new story and I read an excerpt from it. Um, but because I had a content warning on there about the rape scene of the 13-year-old girl, Amazon arbitrarily decided to classify it as erotica. I'm going to let that sink in for a minute. It was a 13-year-old girl. It was non graphic, nothing at all erotic about it. Um, and it was classified as erotica. I have the biggest problem with this because rape of 13-year-old girls is not erotica. Um, I called Amazon and tried to explain to them the situation and ask why it had been labeled erotica. And they said that they had people who reviewed the material, and once it had been put into the erotica selection, there was no way to retrieve it. So, I cannot allow myself to publish something in that way. I do not agree with them at all. And because of that, I pulled the book and unpublished it. The links no longer work. I took it all down. I will not profit off of Amazon trying to label the discussion, a serious discussion of a 13-year-old girl who endures a rape, as erotic. So I started a petition on change.org addressed to the founder and CEO of Amazon, Jeff Bezos, to try and persuade him to change the way they rank these things. I cannot deal with the idea that my daughter is going to have to grow up in a world where girls as young as 5, 6, 7 are not only fetishized and sexualized, but that large corporations seem to be okay with this. I can't. Um, I wouldn't have included the scene if it wasn't vitally necessary to the development of the characters, and I do not think it was right of them to try and call it erotica. I just, I'm so upset. I spent earlier today crying. You can imagine. Um, it was just like they were mad tears, rage tears, but they were still tears. um, anyway, I'm going to read you the letter that I wrote him, and then I'm going to include a link in the description for the change.org um, words gone, the change.org petition, so that you guys can sign it as well if you want and help me get the word out. Okay. Jeff, I recently tried to publish my story on Amazon. I have other books and stories on there and I have never had a problem. However, this horror story was put into the erotic category. I can only assume that it was because I put a content trigger warning on the story about the non graphic rape of a 13-year-old girl. I called and talked to someone to explain that I was uncomfortable with the idea of a 13-year-old being raped and having to endure the demons that come with being put into the erotic category. The part of the story that deals with her, this part of the story deals with her friend trying to save her and then being forced to comfort her afterward and how that changes their relationship. However, I was informed that there was nothing I could do to have the book placed in an appropriate category. Once it is labeled as erotica, it had to stay there. And since I am deeply uncomfortable with the idea of someone calling that scenario erotic and continuing the disturbing trend of rape culture in America, I unpublished the book. I seriously think Amazon.com needs to reevaluate what constitutes being placed into the erotic section. You are doing nothing but feeding into the idea that women and young girls enjoy being raped and that it is considered sexual. 1 in 4 women have been the victim of rape or molestation. We need to be able to have books and stories that deal with this in a serious manner without being inappropriately labeled, sexualized, fetishized. I also have to wonder if would have happened to a larger publishing house. If someone had contacted me and asked me about the content warning, I would have gladly explained. We could have had a conversation and tried to work this out. Instead, I only found out that the book was in the erotica section when I checked the Amazon page to see how everything looked before launch. I am all around disgusted by this. Your company needs to change its policies and the way it deals with the labeling of erotica material immediately. The longer this goes on, the harder it is for the 25% of women who are victims to find closure and move on with their lives. If someone in your department considers the discussion of a 13-year-old enduring a rape to be erotic material, then that indicates a problem on your company's part that needs to be rectified. And like I said, the link is in the description. Please help me. The longer I think about this, the madder I get. I do not want my daughter to have to endure in this world where people and companies think it's okay to claim that the rape of a 13-year-old girl is erotic. I just can't. So, any help you guys can give me sharing it, getting the word out, I appreciate it a lot. Thank you.